Hey everybody, it's Brian House here for Housework, and I am going to be installing the new triple tree bearings or the steering bearings on a motorcycle. This particular motorcycle is a 1991 Harley-Davidson Sportster. I am in the middle of an extensive rebuild on this bike, so if you hit that subscribe button, you'll be able to follow along in that process with me. All right, so the old bearing is off. It was a big pain in the ass to get it out of there. I did manage to get it off with not a lot of, actually no special tools. I used a chisel and heat and warmed it up. I managed to pretty much not ding things up too bad while taking that off. It was a bear, but I got it, so no big deal. We are moving forward. For today, to install this bottom bearing, you're going to need a couple of tools. A hammer is good. This is a dead blow hammer. You can rubber mallet, or you can use like a standard hammer. And then this guy, this is my one specialty tool. This is a piece of galvanized steel pipe. It's 1 inch by 10 inch. And the reason is you have to be able to slide it down over the actual spindle here to get your bearings in. And of course, you need your bearings. I buy mine on Amazon. These were special for my motorcycle steering bearing kit. It comes with everything you need, races, the washers, and everything. The racers are actually in the freezer right now, so I do that so I can install them a little bit easier. They shrink just slightly. All right, so let's get started. First things first, the little bearing seal. I think that's what this is called. Some sort of seal, I don't know. Goes on first. Don't skip that step. You will be not happy if you skip that step. Then of course, grab your bearing. Mine are packed in oil and they look pretty good. You'll want to remember that the orientation of this bearing is actually so that the smaller side of the cone is on the top, okay? And then we're going to need to pack this bearing with some grease before we put it on. You can always do that later, but it's much easier to do it now. Whenever I pack bearings, I always wear gloves, and I just get the cheapest of the cheap for gloves for this because it's pretty much one use. But you get this grease all over your hands, and it's all over, so you want to throw them away. So how I pack my bearings is pretty simple. You're trying to wedge that grease up inside. You see, as I'm doing it, I'm turning it, wedging up the grease. And then of course you get it everywhere else, including the inside of the bearing race, which is actually a benefit because it, help slide this thing on a little bit easier. You just want to make sure that you get a nice coating, and you don't need all this excess grease. It's just not needed. So we're going to take all that off. Get things all nice and lubed up here. Good. I actually like the smell of this stuff. All right, so now we're going to slide this guy down and on. You'll notice it will go on real easy all the way until about that point. That's where the shaft starts to spread. I'm going to change out of my greasy gloves here, and then we're going to slide this down and over. And you can see it's a nice fit, allows that on there. And we're going to tap it down in. You want to pay attention to where this is. You don't want that to get pinched in a spot where it's going to not be centered. So you just want to pay attention. Every whack or so, couple of whacks or so, you're going to want to Just adjust it. And I believe we are seated properly. Now, you're going to want to test this on your triple tree just to make sure that, or on your actual steering neck, just to make sure that you've got this seated down properly. And the reason I say that, especially for this bike, is that there's a bike lock here, this particular piece. If you do it wrong, then that won't line up. If this bearing isn't low enough, or high, it's too high, this will not line up. So we're going to go check that. So as you can see, it was pretty easy to install that bearing on the steering neck of the triple tree for the Harley-Davidson there. The key for me was finding this 1" by 10" pipe at Home Depot. I found this in the plumbing section. I think it was like $6 or something along those lines. I will most likely never ever use this for anything ever again. I will, however, hang on to it for the next lower steering bearing that I have to install on a motorcycle. It was super handy and, you know, made the process really easy. The key to getting those bearings right is really having them seated properly and in the right alignment. So without something like that, you'd never achieve it properly. You might get it on there, but it actually wouldn't be straight. If you're new to my channel, you should know that I am in the middle of an extensive rebuild of this 1991 Harley-Davidson Sportster. If you hit that subscribe button, you can follow along in the process and see all of my future projects. I really do appreciate it. And as always, I put links down in the description for all the tools and supplies I've used. And if you click through those links, it doesn't cost you anything. It saves you a little bit of time, and it also supports my channel. I really do appreciate it. This is Brian House for Housework.
Thanks for watching. Check us out on Instagram at house__work. That's 2 underscores between those words. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button and leave us a like.